The Silver Ferns have been world champions 5 times. They are one of the most successful women's sporting teams New Zealand has ever produced. And the woman who gave them their greatest moment was told 3 years before she saved them that she wasn't good enough for the job.
And this year's Silver Ferns fitness test is a testament to that. The Silver Ferns coach, Noeline Taurua, worked closely with High Performance Sport New Zealand.
It started on a ship. On the 4th of August 1938, 13 women from across New Zealand boarded a vessel called the Wanganella in Wellington Harbour and sailed for Australia. They had assembled 10 days earlier for coaching sessions. Most of them had never played together before. Their captain was a Māori woman from Auckland named Margaret Matangi, the first Silver Fern. The first captain, Silver Fern number 1. They were going to Melbourne to play in the Australian Women's Basketball Championships. There is a detail about this trip that almost always gets left out. They had to learn a different game on the way over. New Zealand played 9-a-side netball. Australia played 7-a-side. The rules were different. The format was different. The women on that ship had a few days on the Tasman Sea to work out how to play a version of the game they had never actually played before. They arrived in Melbourne, walked onto the court at Royal Park and lost 40-11. It was the first international netball test ever played between any nations, anywhere in the world. New Zealand lost it, on different rules, on someone else's turf, on a boat trip with a new captain and a game they learned on the way. The result, 40-11, set the tone for everything that followed. Not the losing, the refusal to stay down. Through the 1940s and 1950s, New Zealand kept playing Australia, kept learning. The sport standardised its international rules in 1957. A world tournament was announced. And in 1963, in the English town of Eastbourne, the first Netball World Championships were held. It was a round-robin tournament. Every team played every other team, and the match that decided everything came down to New Zealand versus Australia. New Zealand came agonisingly close, lost by a single goal, 37-36. 1 goal. That phrase, 1 goal, is going to come up again in this story. In 1967 in Perth, the Silver Ferns won their first world title. They were unbeaten throughout the tournament, world champions. From the women who had to learn a new game on a ship to the best team on earth in 29 years. In 1979, they shared the world title in a 3-way tie. In 1987, in Glasgow, they won it outright again.
There goes for one last shot. There it is, 49-38. The time is called, and New Zealand are world champions for 1987.
Through the 1970s and 1980s, the Silver Ferns and Australia carved up the international netball between them. They met in final after final. They played each other hundreds of times. They knew each other's game better than any 2 teams in any sport have ever known each other. And then came 1991. The World Championships were held in Sydney. A then world record crowd turned up to watch the final. The game went on television live in Australia, the first time that had ever happened. The Silver Ferns led at every single quarter break, led at the end of the 3rd quarter into the final minutes. And then Australia found something. Vicky Wilson, their shooter, held her nerve. The Australians grabbed the lead. New Zealand captain Wai Taumaunu intercepted brilliantly, sent the ball toward the Silver Ferns shooting circle, only for an Australian defender to take an intercept of her own. Australia won, 53-52. 1 goal. The Silver Ferns went 8 years without a world title. Then came 1999, hosted in New Zealand in front of their own people, a chance to end the drought at home. They led for most of the final, and then in the final seconds, Australian shooter Sherelle McMahon scored.
Turnover, Knight Toms gets it. The timekeeper's up. 41 apiece. Australia with a late charge. McMahon shoots. She's got it. She's got it.
Australia won 42-41. 1 goal. The Silver Ferns walked off the court in their own country, having led for most of the final and lost by a single goal. That result drove a complete rethinking of conditioning and fitness in the New Zealand netball. The players had faded at the end. They were not going to let that happen again. The year 2000 changed the game, literally. A South African goal shooter named Irene van Dyk had come to New Zealand for the 1999 World Championships. She had played against the Ferns, scored almost everything she touched. She stayed. She played in the domestic competition. She loved it here, and in 2000, she switched allegiances to New Zealand. What followed was not just a signing, it was a tactical revolution. Irene van Dyk was 6'3" with a shooting accuracy that defied logic. Before she arrived, New Zealand played a fast running game, sharp passes, quick movement, low trajectory shooting. Van Dyk changed everything. She introduced the high ball, a lofted shot fired up and over the defence. Australia had no answer for it. They had to fundamentally change the physicality they looked for in defenders, specifically to stop one woman. She played 145 tests for the Silver Ferns. She was the most capped Silver Fern of all time. She scored 41 goals from 43 attempts in the 2003 World Cup final. That final in Kingston, Jamaica, ended 49-47, New Zealand's first World Cup win in 16 years. The difference this time, 2 goals, but in their favour.
It's been given away. Here comes the Australians. What's the call? Play on, says the umpire. Cox calling for the contact. There it is.
That's it.
They have done it. 16 years and the drought is over.
Through the 2000s, the Silver Ferns were consistently among the world's best. In 2006, they won Commonwealth Games gold. And then came 2010 and the greatest netball match ever played. Commonwealth Games, Delhi. New Zealand versus Australia. Gold medal final. The Silver Ferns went 7 goals up in the final quarter. 7. Then Australia clawed back. Then New Zealand clawed back. Then Australia levelled with seconds to go. Extra time. More extra time. The players had been on court for over 80 minutes, calves cramping, hands shaking, and then Maria Tutaya, New Zealand's goal attack, held the ball at the edge of the shooting circle and sank the goal that won it. 66-64, double extra time, 84 minutes of play.
If they score here, the Silver Ferns, they've won it.
Tutaya putting the Dodgers on. Brilliant take by Temapara George. It's in the hands of the one person we'd rather not have it.
People who watched that game live have never forgotten it. And here is where we get to the part nobody saw coming. And nobody saw Noeline Taurua coming either. We'll get there. Through the early 2010s, the Silver Ferns remained competitive, but from around 2014, things began to slip. Squad changes, coaching criticism, a growing sense that the machine wasn't running the way it should. And then, 2018, the Commonwealth Games were held on the Gold Coast. New Zealand had never failed to medal at a Commonwealth Games netball tournament. Never in the entire history of the competition. And then they lost to Malawi, a team ranked well below them, in the pool stages. Lost to England, lost to Australia in the semi-finals, lost the bronze medal match to Jamaica.
They know it's done. They've done enough. The crowd are up on their feet.
Jamaica take the bronze medal in Cape Town.
4th place, no medal, for the first time ever. The Silver Ferns came home from the Gold Coast with nothing. The coach resigned. A review began. Players reported in the inquiry that they had entered the tournament lacking confidence in their coaching staff and in themselves. The sport was in crisis, and everyone knew who they needed. Noeline Taurua had played 34 tests for the Silver Ferns in the 1990s. She had built a record as a coach that was impossible to ignore. She had taken the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic to a Trans-Tasman title. She had taken the Sunshine Coast Lightning in Australia to 2 consecutive Super Netball titles. She was, by any reasonable measure, the best netball coach in the Southern Hemisphere. In 2015, when the Silver Ferns coaching job came up, she applied. She wasn't shortlisted. Janine Southby got the job. The Silver Ferns lost 11 straight tests against Tier 1 nations. They came 4th at the Commonwealth Games, and it felt like a building falling down. 3 years after being told she wasn't what they were looking for, Noeline Taurua was handed the wreckage and asked to fix it, with less than a year until the 2019 World Cup in Liverpool. What she did in those 14 months belongs in a completely different category of sporting achievement. She made players reapply for their spots. She set a strict fitness standard before anyone was allowed to trial.
And this year's Silver Ferns fitness test is a testament to that. The Silver Ferns coach, Noeline Taurua, worked closely with High Performance Sport New Zealand.
She built something she called a culture, not just a system, not just a game plan, but a set of values the whole team lived by. P.U.R.E. Play to win, united, ruthless, explosive. She took a team that had been demoralised, embarrassed, and publicly questioned, and turned them into world champions. In Liverpool in July 2019, the Silver Ferns played Australia in the final. They had already lost to Australia in the round robin. They had trailed by 9 goals at one point in the semi-final before winning. In the final, they built a lead across 3 quarters and held off an Australian comeback. Final score, 52-51. 1 goal. The woman who was told she wasn't good enough, whose team had come 4th at the Commonwealth Games, had won the World Cup in 14 months. The 2019 win was declared New Zealand's favourite sports moment. Taurua was named Coach of the Year, and then, in 2025, it fell apart again. In September 2025, players raised formal concerns about the high-performance environment under Noeline Taurua. The complaints included players feeling afraid to make mistakes, concerns about mixed messages, and perceptions of shifting standards. Netball New Zealand stood Taurua and her entire coaching staff down just days before a test series against South Africa. What followed was not a clean process. Mediation talks began. They stalled. The parties were deadlocked. Netball New Zealand made the decision to extend the suspension, sidelining Taurua not just from the South Africa series, but from the entire Constellation Cup against Australia and the Northern Tour that followed. Interim coaches ran the team. Current players publicly wept. Former players called it the saddest decision in the sport's history. The whole thing played out in front of the country for nearly 2 months. Taurua described the experience as horrific. She had sleepless nights. She later said she couldn't talk about it without her voice breaking. 51 days after she was stood down, an agreement was finally reached. Netball New Zealand confirmed her integrity had not been called into question. Changes to the program were agreed. She would return, but interim coaches would finish the Northern Tour first. The organisation that had stood her down apologised to the players, to the staff, to their whānau. Netball New Zealand had been here before, not with Taurua, but with the pattern, the star coach, the rebuilt team, the moment of glory, and then the painful question of what comes next and who gets to say so. It is the oldest tension in team sport, high performance versus human beings, results versus relationships, the pursuit of winning and the cost of it on the people inside the machine. What the Silver Ferns have always been is a mirror of that tension. A team built from women who learned a different game on a ship crossing the Tasman, who lost the first world final by 1 goal, who lost 2 more after that by a single goal, who fell to Malawi and came back to win the world, who got their coach, lost their coach, and got her back. The silver fern itself, the emblem on the dress, is the underside of the native ponga leaf. When a fern frond falls in the New Zealand bush, the silver underside faces up towards the sky. Māori travellers used it for centuries to mark a path in the dark, a way home. Every silver fern who has won that emblem since Margaret Matangi stepped off the Wanganella in Melbourne in 1938 has been part of that path. Some of them you know, most of them you don't. Their names are printed quietly on the inside of the centenary dress released in 2024. Every woman who ever wore the black dress. Every cap number since number 1. The 2026 Commonwealth Games are in Glasgow, the same city where the Silver Ferns won the world title in 1987. Taurua will walk out there with a team that has been through fire in the past year and come out the other side. New Zealand will expect them to win. And somewhere in that expectation, that absolute non-negotiable belief that a team from a country of 5 million people at the bottom of the world should be the best on earth at this is the thing that has driven the Silver Ferns since 1938. It is not arrogance. It is not entitlement. It is the same thing that made 13 women learn a different game on a ship crossing the Tasman. The refusal to stay down. If you enjoyed this video and want more stories like this one, check out this video next. And as always, stay curious.